Good morning, Rabbi Westside. Leilu Nishmas Chaim Oren. Welcome to all the guests. Yeshcaya for coming out at such a late hour. I know it's early in the morning for a lot of you, but it's also late at night for a lot of you. It's 10:20 p.m. in Eretz Yisrael, flying in just a few hours. So Yeshcaya for coming out and putting up with the delays and all the technical issues. Yeshcaya. Real quickly, we have a few emails here. The other week, we learned about Etzem Kesayir. This is from Ezra Fried. You brought a Ziploc bag containing barley. You painted the barley grain black to demonstrate how small Etzem Kesayir is. The shear to make a Nazir Tameh is so minuscule, it can barely be seen. Its size, no, I just put that in there. Its size can seem irrelevant. Perhaps the takeaway is that Torah is teaching us that even something as tiny as Etzem Kesayir has chashivos. That Etzem was once a piece of living human being, and Etzem Kesayir can bring closure to a family. Let me explain. The U.S. government spends millions of dollars having the recovery efforts, servicemen killed in battle, World War II, Korea, Vietnam, teams are dispatched. Bekitzer, they bring back Etzem Kesayir, they do a whole funeral, and it brings closure to the family. And what he's saying is, how much more now? We need to go out of our way to see the chashivas of our fellow Jew, to recognize the value of Etzem Kesayir in every living being. Sincerely, Ezra Fried, member of RBS MDY since the Darm 42. P.S. Thank you for being a source of inspiration to all of us. Rabbi Stefansky, from David Teitelbaum. In case you wonder if Mashiach's wager of spreading godliness and Torah in all the corners of the world, in order for him to come, it's not being fulfilled, you should know that you're a vessel for that tafkid. You're reaching some strange places, Baruch Hashem. Recently, I decided to actually listen to Yeshua, but I found myself bereft of an important element in properly learning the daf, a Gemara. I'm in a pretty farvarfene place, F-A-R-V-O-R-F-E-N-E, farvarfene place, in a town called Alpine, Texas, a tiny city in the Big Bend of Texas, where Daf Yomi shiurim aren't regularly given. Frankly, I don't think there's a single volume of Gemara in this whole region. And I decided I needed to join the beginning of Saita. Truth be told, I'm ready to listen to the end of Nazir without a Gemara, but it's not the same. Now I can learn properly. I want to thank you and your organization for generously helping me with the Gemara Saita, which I've already begun to use, and it came in the mail now. Rav Shabbos gave me a chance to once again learn a bit of Torah. Maaser the same Nazir. Sincerely, David Teitelbaum. P.S. Riz Hashem, I'll be moving from this town soon. Blah, 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 blah. Yeshkoyach, David Teitelbaum in Texas. And here is the information for the Siyum in New York. Do me a favor, if that, okay, you know what? Noise is not good for me. Mendy from Connecticut. Good morning, Rebellia. I had to write to you today as you're pausing today's daf to expand the importance of honoring one's parents was very powerful. I was thinking about it after Shir, and as I opened my Chayenu, to see today's Rambam and Mishnah Torah, which is one of the exact halachas of Kibbud Aveim. Some highlights. Starts bringing psukim to compare the honor and fear of Hashem. Bekitzer, it's a hug from Hashem, he says. For me to see these hugs from Hashem, I realize I must make sure to grow my shiurim and learning in areas outside of the daily daf, like Chazar program, previous Mesechtas, daily chitas, Rambam, Mishnah, and the list continues. Much Hatzlacha in Yeshurim and keeping us moving in our Torah learning. Mendy from Connecticut. And here we go to the sponsors. Rabbi Westside, if you're making noise, if you the wind from outside, it's late at night, and I'm going to go crazy on you. Sorry. The Koilel. Father has no idea it was fly. The Koilel and Anish from Lakewood. The Koilel from the month. Reuven Klein and honor my daughter Lisa becoming Kyle to Tzvi Chaim NATO from Toronto. The Masechta is sponsored by Maaser. The Masechta is sponsored by Leilu Nishmas Chaim Elefant by Anon Ymous. Parents of the month, Landy Family, Leilu Nishmas Chaim Yeshעי. Parents of the month, Leilu Nishmas Chaim Elefant, Chaim and Yaakov Shmuel by his Westside friends. And Parents of Chodesh, Leilu Nishmas Zechrya ben Moshe. Parents of Chodesh, MDY Family, Leilu Nishmas Chaim Oren, Zechrya ben Eliyahu Chaim Oren. The 1-year-old that was just nifted this past Thursday. Parents of the week, Vladislav Zakharov and the Schut that I graduated this May. Parents of the day, Shaul Jaspa. I married my grandmother, Feyga Bas Mrdechai Zev, on the occasion of a Shloshim. Another parents of the day, Yaakov Yagen, in honor of our son Binyomin Zev, celebrating his Bar Mitzvah, Mazel Tov, and the artist sponsor of complete refuah for Chaim Tzvi ben Leah. Don't jump at the opportunity. Nobody wants to sponsor the art for the month. I'm not sure why. In the beginning, everybody's clamoring for check out this art that he did today. Rabbi said we have a brand new Mishnah. Siyum in Muncie. We're whatever. Look, MDYCM.com. What other places have I forgotten? If you're looking for your local Siyum, MDYCM.com. The Siyum for RBS is tomorrow night. I have no idea where. And the Siyum in Chicago, there's close to 150 people that signed up. Over 25 people are flying in from different places. Great. We're holding by, today we're going to be learning some phenomenal sugyas throughout Shas, all sorts of halachas. We're going from thing to thing, and we're going to learn many new things, many new halachas. We're starting from a brand new Mishnah, so it's like a brand new Masechta practically. And we're going with the theme today is Reglaim Ladavar. Sometimes you have feet to stand on. Things make sense logically. Amud Beis, Daf Samach Daled Beis, all the way in the bottom. The Mishnah, sponsored, the Refuas, our dear friend. I'm listening now to Psachim. Throughout Psachim, I keep on mentioning, Avi Mandelbaum said this, and Avi Mandelbaum said that, and he's a scientist, and he was arguing with me in science, and all sorts of stuff. Almost every day, mention his name. Amud Beis Batchila, and I was, because there was nobody in the Beis Medrash because of COVID, so I was talking to the guys on Zoom, and he was always there on top, schmoozing back and forth, the whole thing. Avram Menashe ben Chana Bracha. Amud Beis Batchila. So now we're going into halachas of, and they're very relevant in our days here in Eretz Yisrael. If you've been around, you will see and hear about the Asr Kedisha, whether they're right or wrong. I'm not going into it. I have a friend in Chicago that built Schneller, and he is not very friendly with those guys because they stopped his building for many years. He claims he has on video that certain individuals came in with bags of bones and spread them in the middle of the night. Everybody has stories. There was a place right here in Ramat Shemesh called Galavenzik, and then they sat there for years outside. Literally every single day sat outside, wouldn't let people come. The whole people, they had to get security, fight. If you live in Eretz Yisrael, you know what I'm talking about. It's based on this sugya right here. What happens when you find a body? Now, the halacha is, before we even start the Mishnah, the halacha is if you bury a body, you're not permitted to move it, ever. Unless you bury it temporarily. If you put it in the ground and say, look, and then we had that also during COVID, can't bring it to Eretz Yisrael, we're going to bury a body temporarily, bring it in a half a year, whatever it is. Okay. So, the digging here in Mabit Shemesh, and they find a bunch of bones, and that's what happened. And it's in a lot of different neighborhoods. It happens all the time in these neighborhoods. They have, in Gimel over there, in Mishkafayim, they have like, people in their backyards have caves that you're not allowed to move, and they found bones. What are these bones? Now, sometimes they're just animal bones. Okay. But once you determine that they're human bones, are they Jewish or non-Jewish? Big nafkamina. If it's Jewish, you're not allowed to move it. Non-Jewish, you could. And we check the way that the body is laying and how it's laying. If it's laying like the Jewish custom, which would be hands like this and laying face up, then we could assume that it's a Jewish body. Now, we don't know whether they put the body in there temporarily. Maybe he was murdered, it was temporarily. Maybe he was buried there. So therefore, Amud Beis Batchila. If this is the first time you ever found this, nobody knew about this grave for hundreds of years until the tractor came and dug down 10 feet and found it. Mushkiv Kedarkoi, if it's like this, Kedarkoi, laying like a normal mace, a normal Jewish mace would be laying, Noitloi, then he could remove it, Vestfusasai, and we're going to see in the Gemara, basically you take some dirt from underneath it, the exact measurements we'll see in the Gemara, take the surroundings, because we assume that part of the nifter went into the ground, the juices and all that, we're not going to get into. Okay. Shnayim, what if he finds two bodies? Noitlan, Vestfusasan, so yes, you could remove those two, move them to another place, and everything surrounding it. But once you find three bodies, if you find that between the three bodies there's 4 to 8 amos, then it's considered a cemetery. Check this out. This I took from the art scroll. I added a little bit of my own thing, but we have permission to use these pictures. Masorah Heritage Foundation. So, the way it used to work, I'll show you the next one. This is basically how it works. You can find them even today, even around Bet Shemesh. These are caves. And in the center, there's a 6x6 courtyard, and there's two caves to the right and to the left. And they're approximately 8 amas wide. Now, 8 amas for the cave on the right, 8 amas for the cave on the left, that's 16 amas. Plus the courtyard is 22 amas. So on the bottom I put 22. Now let's go back to the picture before. Now, this is one of the few caves that he perhaps found. He found 3 bodies on top left corner. 1, 2, 3, he found 3 bodies. If it's within 4 to 8 amas, it makes sense that we're dealing with a typical cave. In those days, they would bury, and that's what in Har Menuchas, they try to mimic it. They try to build a nice courtyard with nice lighting, chandeliers, sushi, and then they have all this. Remember, they made this big party over there with catering, and they put the bodies in there, and then they had a little bit of a problem. It was dripping out. They forgot one little small detail, and they had a big mess there. But that's what they used to do back in the day. They would go into a cave and bury these bodies pretty close. In 8 amas, in 16 feet, they would bury about 6 people. So, if it's within 4 to 8 amas, it makes sense. 4 amas is exactly half of a typical cave, and you have 3 bodies, which is half of the bodies that are buried in a typical cave. Great. It makes sense. You're talking about a burial cave, burial chamber, whatever they want to call it. If it's less than that or more than that, then you're not really dealing with a cave. So, you can't touch it. It's a Jewish base of kfaris. You can't start moving bodies around. Amud Aleph. So what do? So now let's go back to the other picture. You find the body all the way on the left. You take your tape measure and you go out 20 amas in one direction. Now this doesn't make a whole lot of sense. Why? Because maybe they're buried behind you. Maybe they're buried to the right, to the left. No, you go in one direction. What is that called? Something that doesn't make that much sense like that? It's called Halacha l'Moshe Sinai. These are a lot of, Taisa says, we're forced to say in a lot of these cases, Halacha l'Moshe Sinai, even though it's not logic, these are the rules of finding bodies. So you go 20 amas. Why 20? It should really be 22. 8 plus 8 plus 6 is 22. You only have to do 20, says Taisa, we might be dealing with, they found smaller bodies of Nephilim, of, how do you say Nephil in English? Miscarriages. Okay, fine. Stillborn. Matzah echad b'soif esrei mamo. Now, if you did take out your measuring tape and you found one body 20 amas further, then you go another 20 amma. So this was within the sugya. We're also going to see in the beginning of Saita. We're on a theme of reglayim l'davar. You have something to stand on. It makes sense that we're dealing with a basic kfaris. If you only found just one body, then you're going to take the body and the surrounding dirt and bury it somewhere else. But since you found a number, 3 bodies, now we're dealing with a basic kfaris. You can't move anything. Aser Kedisha wins. Unless, of course, you pay them. Omer Rav Yehuda, Matzah, Pratla, they don't listen, so we can say whatever, right? Omer Rav Yehuda, huh? Right. True. Omer Rav Yehuda, Matzah, Pratla, Matzah. So here, this is the halacha that we already mentioned. It's if you came upon a body, but not that it was known to everybody, Meis, Pratla, Harog, if you see that the body's missing something, a part, a piece, blood, it has to be a whole body. Now, what is the difference if the person was murdered or not murdered? If we're dealing with a cemetery, they bury murdered people there. So obviously we must be dealing once again with Halacha l'Moshe Sinai. Shalom Aleichem. Something that to us maybe doesn't make sense logically, it's Halacha l'Moshe Sinai. Mushkov Prat Liyoshev. This, for instance, this picture right over here, is not something we're dealing with. Why? Because they don't bury people like that. Our people. Kedarkoi, prat, l'sharoishay munach bein yarchoisav. So if his head is between his feet, his legs, that's not what we're dealing with. Now, the famous story, but we must say the story again right over here because this is exactly where it fits in, is that there was a big Maaser who caused a lot of problems for the Jews. He was Jewish, but he caused a lot of problems. And right before he died, he went to the governor over there in Europe and he said, watch, the Jews hate you and they hate me because I'm a snitch. So what are they going to do? They're going to bury me upside down. Okay, then he went and he put in his will, he said, I'm a Maaser and I want a kapara. I want Hashem to forgive me. Please bury me upside down. And they brought this question to Rav Moshe Feinstein. He was a young Rav. And Rav Moshe Feinstein said, absolutely not. We don't care whether he wants to punish himself, not punish himself. Sure enough, so they buried him normally. And then the government came and they exhumed the body and they were looking for him to be buried upside down. And he wasn't. Okay, fine. That's the story. Because we have very, very particular rules how we bury the dead. And it can't be in a sitting position. It can't be upside down. It can't be anything. It has to be exactly like this. Kedarkoi, prat, l'sharoishay munach bein yarchoisav, we said. Tonu bar Chanina, meish chasar, if he's missing some part of his body. Eloi tfusav l'shchunas kfaris. He's no longer part of this halacha, and you don't have to gather dirt from around the body, the skeleton. You don't have to consider it part of a basic verse. Why not? Because at the end of the day, perhaps he's a non-Jew, and non-Jews aren't as particular about moving their bodies. You can move them. They don't care. Put them in a better place. Matzah shnai. What if you found two bodies? Here's the picture of Westside, very simple. One head is by the feet of the other, and the other head is by the feet of the other. That's not how we bury the dead. Again, they're not part of this halacha of the halacha l'Moshe Sinai that you have to, you can't move them. You could move them. Not only could you move them, you don't have to take out the dirt below them and go through all that pain because most likely they're not Jewish. Matzah shloisha. What if you found three? One of them was a known grave. However, you have to stick in here. It's very important. You hear Rosh Koil? This is very important. You know that he's buried there. You just don't know if it was a temporary burial. There was a grave. You just don't know if it's temporary. Ushnayim tchila. And this is the first that you heard about the other two. You never knew about the other two. You knew about one. Or the reverse. Shnayim oy shnayim tchila. Echad tchila ushnayim yiduim. That means it says, okay, you have to be Garish one. You knew about two, but not about one. Ein lahem tfusa ve'elam shchunas kfaris. Again, not part of the halacha. Huh?
The ones you don't know.
Who said?
One you know about Jewish.
No. But you don't know if it was temporary or not. You don't know if that's why I said you don't know if it's temporary. Yeah, okay. For sure not shchunas kfaris. Okay, you're talking about tfusa. Says the Gemara, there's a story with Rabbi Shevav who there was two known graves and one, the third one just came, they came upon it right now. He wanted to be machmer, not like we just learned. He wanted to hold that you cannot move them. Everything that you worked hard for was in vain, it was for nothing. Huh? For nothing, I said. Oh, I thought you were saying that we don't have Zoom or something. You're mamish with it. We only say this idea of a basic forest that you cannot move it at all as if you knew about the 3 before, or you found 3 right now. Interesting. So there's a beautiful story. There's a bacher, his name was Chatzkel in Europe. And he worked really hard. He was a working boy, not in yeshiva. And, in those days, hard labor. Worked for 2 weeks. He finally got his wages. Schlepping, really, really hard work. So he gets his little salary that he got, and he's extremely poor family. He's going to bring it back home. And he went to the mikvah. And in the mikvah, some guy stole his money. Stole all the money. And he's heartbroken. And he said to himself, you can work for such a long time, and in a second it's gone, in a second. So he decided, let me make a better investment. Let me work for something that they can't take away from me. I'm going to go back to yeshiva and learn and accumulate some more Torah. Nobody can take that away from me. And this boy, I was thinking about it, because Larik Yagata, he worked for 2 weeks, got 0. Some people, they work, and they get a lot. This boy grew up to be, 9 months later, he grew up to be Reb Chatzkel Levenstein.
9 months.
What did I say?
You said 9 months later.
Yeah. Anyway, some people were asking about the story, if it's true that he became Reb Chatzkel Levenstein because the guy stole his money, does the guy that stole his money get a mitzvah? Anyway, then another thing that I was thinking about, I have to look, I didn't have time today to look it up, but I remember once reading about a guy who decided to dedicate 20 years of his life to typing numbers. He started at 1, then to 2, and he kept on going to 1,000,001, 1,000,002, 20 years straight. To me, that's Begat the Larik, just to get a Guinness World Record to say, I typed X amount of numbers in my life. Okay, you got the Larik. Zok the Gemara. Fine. Noitlon v'stfusasan, you take the dead and the dirt around them. Heichi dami tfusasai. Heichi dami, again, we're going to see, I want to show you a beautiful rush, but we'll turn the page to see it. Heichi dami tfusasai. In other words, where do we find this halacha? Okay, it's Lashon Nazir as we're finishing the Masechta. The language in Nazir is very strange, it's different. Omer Rabbi Yehuda, Omer Kro, Unusasani Mitzrayim. Yaakov Avinu says, you'll take me from Mitzrayim. Well, yeah, Yaakov Avinu is saying that bury me in Canaan. So of course you're going to have to take me from wherever I am. What does it mean? Unusasani Mitzrayim. The Gemara learns from here, take me and with me some dirt. The obvious question is, they never buried Yaakov Avinu. So what dirt are we talking about? They took him, they embalmed him, they took him to Canaan. So some want to say that no, during those 7 days of Avelos, they did bury him temporarily. And some say that Yaakov Avinu was concerned that if they bury him, they should take me with the dirt. You're right, they never did. He was just saying, if they bury me, you should. Fine. Mimitzrayim toili me. V'kamashir tfusa, how much? First take all the soft dirt. All the soft dirt, you have to be concerned that part of the body, the human, whatever happens after death, seeped into the soft dirt. When you have the tough stuff, once you get to the tough stuff, then you go down even deeper, 3 ybl'c, 3 finger. But we have something that doesn't say, in this brayso, it doesn't talk about 3 fingers. In the brayso it says how much? Over here, either the guys Rebbe Lazar Rebbe Tzaddik before or not. Now, when I read this, kisamim to me means like toothpicks, like splinters of wood. And in fact, that's how the article says, splinters. Then I see Taisvis says splinters of marble. Now, marble doesn't break up into splinters. Why does Taisvis have to say that? It doesn't really fit into the words. And the answer is because Taisvis had a very, very big problem. If you remember, we learned that Tarvad, Rekev, the ladle full of dust of a human being is mitama only on condition that you don't involve any other material in there. Zero. Not even one speck of wood. Nothing. So as Taisvis, how does that fit into the next words over here? The clumps. You take it like, the FBI, they have a table, they take, the parts, like when there's a plane crash, they take it, they put it out, and they say, is this something, 9/11, they were doing that. You have to go through everything and say, okay, this is a vadai, this is a body, this human remains, this is, this is a suffix. Bashar, mitztaref, l'roi binyoni shel meis. I'm going to try this one more time. I think we tried this 3 or 4 times. It's one of those things that we got wrong a bunch of times. This is try 3 or 4. And this might be wrong also. In fact, in the book, in the Nazir book, the wrong one went in. I told Yoshi to change this today. He says, "Oi, the wrong one." Okay, so here again, this Roi Binyani means most of the height of a human being. Basically, it's 3 bones. But according to Taisvas, the Gemara says 2 and 3 bones. What's 2 and 3? So this makes the most sense out of all the pshatim that we went through. Basically, this pshat, I need to see the screen, sir. Is that okay? Hello? Thank you. So this pshat does not include, what is it called? Tibia, this very small thin bone on the bottom. Tibia, right. Is it that bone?
Tibia is the lower one, and
not fibia? Fibula. I put them. You're not a doctor. Stop. Here, he said the right one. Fibula. We're not dealing with the fibula, the outer ones. They're too small. We don't count them. But what basically, real quickly, the 2 bottom ones are so small compared to the upper one that when you put 2 and 1 upper one, what does the Gemara call that? 2. Because the 2 small ones in the bottom and 1 upper one, they only equal as 2. But if you take 2 upper ones, that itself is 2 right there because they're very large. And 1 bottom one, that's 3. Again, we're talking about 3 bones regardless, but sometimes the Gemara calls it 2, sometimes the Gemara calls it 3. If you're dealing with the very thick thigh bones on top, 2 of them and 1 bottom one, that's 3. But we're dealing with the 2 lower ones and 1 thick one, that's only 2 because 2 on the bottom equal 1, 1 on the top is 1. We're going to stick to this pshat for now until we get another email that this is also wrong. Okay. Next. And for a quarter of a kav of bones, and listen to this one. L'malei tarvad rakov. Okay. So, this is what Taisus was concerned about. The maloi tarvad rekev. Don't forget this halacha, another halacha that is not brought down very often, but a ladle full of human dust remains, or whatever. But again, it can't have. Not good?
It's fine, just continue. It's not just...
But what about the guys on Zoom? They hear? They don't hear?
Speak very loud.
So that's why Taisa says we're talking about marble, because if it's wood, then it would mix into the tarvad and it wouldn't be good. But the question is that we said that how much is a tfusa, how much do you have to remove from the dirt? 3 fingers worth, and over here it doesn't talk about fingers at all. Says the Gemara, you're right. In the Bryce it doesn't say it, but he has could it be Saimichan, there's another Tana, there's a Rabbi Yochanan, a previous generation Tana, Mishum ben Azai, you see, there's a Tana that says straight out, it has to be 3 fingers, and that's how he goes. Next. Boide Kemenu. Daf Samachei Amud Beis. For that Hatzlacha of our Leib, Ben Eliza Simcha Shena Masho, and Eliza Simcha Shena Masho Bad Bracha, and for that Hatzlacha for the Magachir, the members of the HBA Group, and their families, Amen. Amar Rava, Bada Gupina, a guy was searching for bodies, and he found one. And he removed the body. Was he allowed to remove the body? Yes. Why could he remove the body? Because it's one body. You don't know if it's brand new. It's unknown. You don't know if it was a temporary burial. You don't know. You move it. Bodakupino. He continued. Tractor. He needs to build a building here. All of a sudden, he finds another body. Is he allowed to move it? Yes, because it's only body number 2. Upino. Bodak v'ashkoch, and then he finds a third body. Now he's in big trouble. Now come the Asr Kedisha. Says the Gemara, Lo yahai mifanele gabi hanach trei. He cannot take the third body out and bring it to the other 2. V'lo yahai trei legabi haychad, and he can't bring the 2 to the 1. Okay, so it reminds me of a famous Maaser. Huh? No, not that he can't. He doesn't have to. You're right. He doesn't have to. That's the pshat. Huh? Yeah, but you can't. You still can't build anything. You can't do anything. You still have a body there. What are you gonna do? Build around it? There were 3 people stuck on an island. Now it depends where you come from and how you come from. And you say it was such a. Okay, three guys on an island. You figure out who they were and what they are. You stick in the Italians say it was a French and a Russian, and the Russians say it's the French. Okay, you get it. It's 3 guys on an island. And they're stuck there for 25 years. Finally, a genie comes along and says, anything you guys want, I'll give you. So the first guy says, anything I want. I want to see my family. I'm dying to see my family. Poof! He flies, he ends up in New York. The other guy, what do you want? He says, the Daf. I want to see my family also. No, boom. Flies over there. He's in another country. Third guy. What does the third guy say? Third guy says, I'm so lonely. I want my 2 friends back. So that's what it says there. That's what I was thinking. As soon as I read this. You take the 2 bodies, you bring them over there. Now, you don't have to bring them back. You could if you want, but you don't have to. It's past his bedtime. Everything you say is going to be laughing. Wow. It's past my bedtime too. Says Rav a tremendous chiddush here. And he says, once you got rid of those 2, and those 2 are in the right place, what's the big deal? Take the third one over there. Ask the Gemara, but if you bring it over there, now you're talking about a 3-body place. So I forgot to mention, this whole sugi is talking about in Eretz Yisrael. In Eretz Yisrael, we have special halachas because we want to get rid of tumah. So they allowed this to happen in Eretz Yisrael. According to Rava, they allowed them to move all 3. What if he continued checking and didn't find anything? So, okay, it could be it's also one of these lashonas. It's so. In other words, like this: if he found 3 dead people, it's considered a basic faras. Even if he didn't find more people, we still consider it a basic faras. And the Rosh takes out the next words because it almost doesn't make sense the way it is right now. Because according to Rish Lakish, they were matter. They made a heter to move bodies in order to clean up Eretz Yisrael from Tumah. And he's saying no, it became a basic faras. Okay. Says the Mishnah. Rabbi said we're going into a whole nother sugya. Mam is jumping around Shas here, and now we're going to talk about Saras. So the way it works, I'll show you real quickly what Yoshi did today. This is what he worked on. He didn't have a whole lot of time because of Shir. Shir started, usually works into 1 o'clock, 2 in the morning. So let me show you what he did here. I think this will be very helpful and it will stick in our minds. When it comes to Saras, a person sees a nega. He sees some splotch on his skin. He doesn't know what it is. So he must go to a kain. Only a kain could decipher it and tell him what it is. You can't go to any rav or anything. So this is what we call a musgar. Check this out. Here comes a guy with saras, and he looks at the guy. He says, okay, let's wait a week. We'll check it again. So he puts him in Musgar. He says, let's check it out. Musgar. Now, the guy comes back. Kohen checks it out. Lit the Kohen. It's the same. Sorry. I have no idea what it is. It's the same. It looks to me the same. Come back. Come back again. He comes back again. The tar should have popped on later, but because we didn't. It shrunk. It shrunk, you're tahar. So if it goes down in size from the original size, tahar. How do you make it tameh? Yeah. How do you make it a mukhlat? You make him tameh, he has to leave the machna and everything? It grew. You're tameh. Boom. That's what happened there. Okay. So, the Mishnah sponsored L'Refuas Chavereinu Avar Menashe ben Chana Broch. So, the halacha is like this. Let me just show you real quickly. The nega must be the size of a gris. A gris is 6 by 6 hairs, 36 hairs. The achronim, like Ramesh Feinstein, and this is what we use by Nida, the size, they say it's approximately the size of a penny or a shekel. A penny. It must be at least that size. Great. So I'm telling you what happened here. The exact story that's going on here, because we have a suffix. How do you have a suffix in this? So the Rishonim explained, 2 people came forward, and it's unbelievable, 3 generations, huh? Father, grandson, and Givaldik. What's your name, Tzaddik? Avram Chaim. And that's Zaidi. From where? Where's Zaidi from? Pennsylvania. Harrisburg? Where? You've ever been there? You've ever been to America? Yeah, of course. Okay. Kol Safik Negoyim Batchila Tar. What happens is as follows. One guy shows up. Okay, I didn't have time to do the whole people and everything, but one guy shows up with a nega the size of a sela. Let's call it an inch. The other guy comes with a smaller one, the size of a gris. Look what happened. One of the 2 grew, and now both of them are a sela. And we don't know who's who. Okay? You ask them, was yours the size of a gris or a sela? He goes, I don't know. I went to the kohen, he said one of us is a sela. I don't know who's what. Nobody knows anything. The kohen doesn't remember who. Okay. So now we don't know what happened. So, because if he put them away, right? So, one of them grew. Here, where are we? We're in this chart over here. One of them grew like this. And, no, this is already the next case. Fine, sorry. Okay, so this is the simple, not the simple case, this is the first case. So, Kol Safik Negoyim Batchila Tar. If before he said that anybody is Tameh, and we come into a suffix situation like over here, where one grew, we don't know who grew, so we're going to say Tar. Because nobody was Tameh yet. The Kain didn't say you're a mukhlat. He didn't tell anybody you have to leave the camp. He said, you guys are musgar. Let me check it out next week. Let me see what's going on. By the time next week came along, both of them show up. One of them for sure grew. And if one grows, if it grew for one person, he would be a mukhlat. He would be Tameh. But because we don't know which one grew, is it Ruvain or Shimon? So it's a suffix nega. And a suffix nega, betchila, before any of them are tameh, the halacha is, they're tahar. Actually, nitzkak l'tumah. That's because this is before he made any of them tameh. Mishin nitzkak l'tumah, sveikoi tameh. Now, so let's go back over here. Again, so another case. 2 people come, one shows up, he's the size of a penny, the other one is the size of a sela. A grizzly. Now, Both of them grew. If both of them grew, what's the halacha? The muchlat. Muchlat, they both have to leave. And then what happened was, after a little while, they both shrunk to a sela. Now think about it. One of them is tahar. Why is one of them tahar? Because one of them started out as a sela. Let's go back. Let's go to step one. You see this in this step. The guy on the right, he started out as a sela. He grows to 2 sela, to 2 inches. And then he shrinks back to a sela. What's the halacha? He's tar. It shrunk. He goes to the guy and shrunk. The problem is, we don't know who shrunk. One of them is tar, one of them is not. So both of them grew a lot. They're both tamei muchlat. Both of them shrunk, but one shrunk to the original size, one did not shrink to the original size. In order for Mr. Penny to be tar, he has to go all the way down to a penny. He didn't go down to a penny. Now he's stuck at the size of a cell. Yes, he went down, but not enough. So the one on the right is tar, but we don't know which one is tar. We have a suffix. Is it the one on the right or the one on the left? 50-50. So what do you do in that situation? Sveikai tamei, because since they were in a position of, they were outcast already.
There was no way to measure them?
Hold on. They were outcast already. And then Mela, get rid of them. Says the Mishnah, weiter. Says the Gemara. Minani mili. How do you know that a suffix is tar? So if you go back to this pasuk, no, this is not it. But I brought this pasuk just to show it's not yet. We'll get there. So we don't have to show this, we'll go over here. It says in the pasuk the word tara, then tuma. Since the Torah uses the word tar, good. So we'll be mako. We'll say if we have a suffix, let's go tara. Says the Gemara, but that doesn't make sense. So what about the second case? Since the Torah started with tar, you should always say a person is tar. Never say a person is tummy when you have a suffix. How come if you chase him out of the camp, then all of a sudden you say he's tummy? Use the same logic. Say since the Torah uses tar before tumah, it should be tar. No, you're right. We're talking about something else. In Beheres Kodman L'Seir Lavan. I'm telling you, we're going through the whole Shas here. Well, obscure Sugis and Shas. In order for one of the cases of a nega being tamei is if it grows 2 white hairs. So we have a question: what came first? Maybe the guy had white hairs. He's turning white anyway. He has white hairs, and then he had a blotch on his skin that came afterwards. If that's the case, he's tar. If he had a blotch of saras and then 2 white hairs grew, then he's tamei for sure. He's a muchlat on the spot. He doesn't have to grow. In beheres kodem l'seir lavan tamei. Vim seir lavan kodem lebeheres tahar. What about suffix? The kohen doesn't know if he had 2 hairs. He doesn't recall seeing 2 hairs there. He's not sure. Maybe yes, maybe not. Were they white? Were they dark? Tamei. Rabbi Shua Omer keha. It's lighter. What does it mean? So that's why I brought this pasuk just to show you. It's a word in the pasuk. It became lighter. So that's why Rabbi Shua uses this interesting word, keya. My keya. What does it mean? Omer Rabbi Yehuda keya v'tar. It's lighter and therefore it's tar. V'dilma keya v'tamei. Now, what does it mean? V'dilma keya v'tamei. So you're not going to believe this. V'dilma keya v'tamei means literally like minohanimili. How do we know? How do you know this halacha? That's all the Gemara is asking. How do you know? Now, for this, you need to see on Daf Samach Vav Amud Aleph. Go to Daf Samach Vav Amud Aleph. I just want to show you because we're finishing Nazir here. And once again, coming out of the Masechta, on Daf Samach Vav Amud Aleph, in the rush, right where it says Mishnah, you see, smack in the middle of the rush, it says the word Mishnah. And right before that, 4 lines before that, it says, V'dilma keya v'tamei, koloymar. My time in the Yeshua, the mitar, dilma roy liya is tamei, V'havi kima minan emili. How do you know this? And then what he says, Ella shaloshin Nazir mishuna. Huh? Yeah? But it fits right into our Masechta beautifully. Well, it's probably taken from this. Because it's a Mishnah here, no? I don't know why it's okay. On that, in other words, how do I know this halacha? And the Gemara says beautiful. Not okay. Again, Minan Emili is very different than Vidilma. Vidilma means maybe, not where do you know it from. So anyway, what? Yeah, that's the whole proof. You'd be saying exactly the same thing as Tanakh. So, that's why the Rosh came up with it, right? Because it says, that's why we're using that pasuk l'tar l'tamai, that first you go to tar, then you go to tamai, hoyel, pasuk b'yakaz b'tar t'chila. That's how I know that it's tar and not tamai. Fine. Says the Mishnah. Now, we're jumping to a different sugya in Shas. The sugya of Ziva. And once we do it again and again, it becomes so simple and so familiar. B'shiva drachim b'itkim sazav. So the sponsor, the big refuah shleima of Ravi, mention Avi. I guess everybody knows. Last night we were at the wedding, and during the wedding, I want to say at least 50 people. No, we're on Zoom. Yeah. They were saying Tehillim, and again, you saw people, you saw Hasidim, and one guy was saying Tehillim, and he said it with Hasidic accent. The next guy said it like a Sephardi. The other guy said it like a modern Orthodox. It was unbelievable. Each guy, it showed the true achdus of MDY and Avram Menashe ben Chara Baruch Shalav Refuah Shleima. So, we're talking about a Zav. A Zav has an emission. And I say this every time, we got to say it again. It's not keri. It's not shikva zera. It's something different. It comes from a disease from that area, but it's not. It's something else. If a Zav, and here's the simple chart, if a Zav sees one emission, then he has the same, he's not a Balkari at all, but he has the same halacha as a Balkari, and he would go to the mikveh that exact day and become tar that night, Harav Shemesh. We already know what Harav Shemesh is. Once the sun goes down, he's tar. If he has two emissions, and it could be that they're one after another on the same day, and we're talking about a man, not a woman, because a woman is very, very different. And in a lot of things, she's different. She has to be in different days. And she sees dam, it's a whole different thing. It's also disease, but dam. So, well, not really. It's not a disease. We're not going to get into it right now. There's a Midarai says 7 days and then 11 days, and she sees it in 11 days. It's Ziva. If she's in the 7 days, it's Nida. Gets her something different. Over here, 2 emissions and 3 emissions is almost the same thing. If a person has 2 emissions, then he has to wait 7 clean days. 7 days without any emission. If he sees something on day 7, we know the concept of stira. It removes all the days, the clean days that he had. He has to start counting again. But if he had 3 emissions, either in one day, at 9 o'clock, 10 o'clock, and 11 o'clock, or Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, then he has to wait 7 clean days. And on day 8, he brings a carbon. Now, what our Mishnah is talking about is that we have to check the Zav and see that basically the second time around, the first time we don't care and the third time we don't care, but we'll call the first 2 times. We have to make sure that what he's seeing is really true Ziva, and it's not coming from crazy exercise or food that he ate or thoughts that he had, whatever it is. Ad shali niskak leziva. It's because because we're checking him at the middle one. Because at the third one, we don't care anymore. Why don't we care anymore? Because we compare him at the third emission to a woman. And women don't have this oinus business. It doesn't matter why they see Ziva, whether it's from overeating or exercising or anything else. But only the third one is compared to women. And that's what the Mishnah is saying. How are we doing with time here, by the way? How bad are we? No, seriously. When do we start?
After 10.
9 o'clock.
22.
No, we started really late.
Start at 10:20.
What?
22.
So not even an hour. Okay, great. We're getting to the bottom of it. Don't worry about it. Quickly. The 7 ways to check out to see whether it's real Ziva or it's fake. Actually, Ziva before he became a second time Zav. Did he overeat? Or did he eat certain foods? Let's call it. There's another pshat, overeat, but different foods. A lot of cheese, oily foods, meat, that kind of stuff. Us Americans, we do it all. We eat the wrong food and a lot of it. Okay, fine. There's even a shita that has to come after a fast. Okay, b'masa. Was he exerting himself? Did he carry heavy loads? Did he jump too much? Did he have a disease? Did he see something he shouldn't have seen? Behira, did he think about something he should have been thinking about? But once he saw 2 re'iyos, he already passed the second one. Now we're thinking about, is he a Zav in the 3 emissions? Is the 3rd emission a real emission? Then, there's nothing to check here. We don't care if he jumped, if he ran, if he ate. He's a Zav. Onto what? Yeah, he's a full-fledged 3 times Zav Gadol, whatever they call it, and he brings a carbon at it. Whether he's by mistake, oines, a suffix, the Gemara is going to explain all this. Tmeim. Again, so we're going with the theme of Reglayim L'davar. There's something to stand on. Now, somebody beat up a guy real good, and the doctor said he's a goner. He's going to die. Now, if he ends up dying, what happens? This guy's Chayav Mises, he's a murderer. And then the situation got really good. And then it got better. And then it turned for the worse, and he died. Chayav. He's Chayav. Mrechemi says this potter. Why? Another. Now what? You understand, says Reb Nechemia. I don't understand. I can't claim I understand him 100%. But Reb Nechemia says, since he is doing great, and then only afterwards he got worse, his situation got worse, then you have to understand that he died from something else. Another thing killed him. Right. I would also say the opposite, but whatever. That's what Reb Nechemia says. Now, what it reminded me, and I didn't have time to look this up, but it's just within the last month or 2 months ago maybe, a terrible story happened. I read this. I know it's true. I just didn't have time to look it up. A frum guy was targeted in a terrorist attack, and he was in the hospital. He was not doing well, and they released him. They said he's doing well. So he went to shul, and he made a goimel, and he made a kiddush, and then he died that day. Remember the story? Crazy story. Look it up. You remember somebody? Anybody with me?
Today with the Lublina Rebbe.
With the who?
Home from the hospital.
Lublina Rebbe?
He dropped in the second he got home.
Where was this? Really? But this is what we're looking. Oh no, I'm serious. I just saw this. I'm not making this up. From guy, I remember he made a goimel. It was probably like within 2 months. One of the terrorist attacks. Huh? No, it depends on the doctors, because the doctor said he's gonna die. Then he's doing great. Go home. And then he died. It says Nechemia, he didn't die from that. Me and Benny don't understand so well. Says Gemara, let's just finish this real quickly. Minan Emili. This is already Minan Emili. We're good. What's going on here? Why is the 3rd Riyah different than the 2nd Riyah? L'Riyah Shlishis Iskash L'Nekeva, because Azav, Azoivai. What? Right. And here I'll show you the pasuk real quickly. V'Azav Azoivai L'Zachar V'L'Nekeva. How do we have 3? I forgot already. Zav, Zoivai is 2. What's the 3rd one? Maybe S? I don't remember anymore. Sorry. So, L'Riyah Shlishis, you see it says in that pasuk, Zachar Nekeva. After you have Zov as Zoiva, which means 3, maybe one of them means 2. I don't remember anything. Look, what? L'Zachar L'Nekeva is the third, and you, okay, fine, whatever. And there's a hekesh on that third one, and just like in a keva, it doesn't matter, you don't do any b'dika, it doesn't matter why she had a ziva, even for Einus, so too the man on his third ziva, and that's what the Torah is telling us. Third, there's no Einus, we don't check. Problem. Rebbe Lezer argues, he says that you do check on the third, you just don't check on the fourth one not. There's an argument whether you darshan esim shabbat Torah. Rebbe Lezer darish etim or esim. Rabbanah darshi esim. If you look over in the pasuk, it says v'azov es zoivai. Does that come to tell us another day or not? Rebbe Lezer says it does, and therefore that pushes us to the fourth day. Rabboisai, have a wonderful day. Hakoshav Sameach. Don't drop out. Don't drop out. Just because I'm not here doesn't mean you shouldn't watch those videos and do the daf. Have a great day, Rabboisai.